Hello, Lorenzo here. Welcome to KSP Eeloo and Tylo episode 37. This is a momentous occasion because it's been already months since the last video. Once again, apologies for that. It does appear that I can only get to make videos if I am in some kind of impaired, disabled condition. This time once more, just as in the previous videos, some big men have gone to work on my jaw, drilling holes in it and being horrible. Fortunately, it was done with some knowledge of the complications that happened last time, so hopefully they won't come around this time. Anyway, enough about that. Let's move on to Tylo and alternatively Eeloo. First, with a reflection on the comments of last video, one of the viewers said, "Hey, why don't you build ships in orbit?" And I thought, what the hell, that's a great idea. And some of the mods that I use actually have that functionality. There's orbital shipyards in my parts list. At least there will be after researching specialized construction here, which was already underway and is due to finish in 60 days. So this is the first thing we're gonna do, and this is a fairly haphazard, impulsive space program up until now. So we're gonna drop everything else and beeline to that thing. Now, I have designed a orbital spaceship plus an orbital shipyard plus space station plus delivery launcher, which will cost 300,000 credits. A simple mathematical thing will tell us that we need 100,000 credits more. We are fortunately also a relatively scamming space company because we have not yet performed the visual surveys of the moon. This is what horrendously failed last time. We will still dock 2 vessels in orbit at some point. Visual surveys of the moon, same deal as the other one, and ore extraction, that was hopeful, but then it turned out that we needed lots and lots more science for that, so none of these things are on the calendar for soon, and we're gonna do more of that shenanigans where we'll accept things and then do them much later. We'll accept a BOP exploration mission. I mean, we are going to be living at Tylo, so we will be able to do that at some time, and it will give us 300,000 credits now. Accept it. We'll also explore Gilly. This doesn't need Kerbals, this needs orbit around Gilly, science transmission and landing, which is all easily possible by a probe, and accepting this now will yield us 200,000 credits, so easy really. Boom. Now we have one more thing, we'll keep one spot for a contract that we actually can do immediately if we ever need money again. This is starting to, well, possibly be a problem, but as always, we'll deal with that once we get to it. For now, let's look at our calendar. The technology for the orbital shipyard finishes in 60 days. Before that, we'll have a window for a launch to Eeloo, which we will let slip. It's the crew window. The hardware is already en route, which is fine. It will just, the crew will get there later. We will not launch something to Eeloo. Oh, what the hell? Everything just got deleted. That wasn't the plan. Let me reload this. Klabam, here we are. Fortunately, all I did was talk and nothing material changed. Now, all I wanted to do was to remove this thing, and this window is, I think, I put X-Probe put there months and months ago. I think this is a window to launch something to Joule, which happens 6 days after we can start building the orbital shipyard. So I don't think we'll be able to send something orbital there, but we're gonna keep this in mind because we might be able to do something. I mean, we are currently building the Careful. This is a carbon copy of the lander, the lunar lander that failed horrendously. Now, I don't remember, but if this has anything resembling autonomous control, we could send it to Joule. Or we can try the lunar surveying mission again. I think we're actually gonna go with that route, although not immediately because it will just get in the way of the orbital shipyard. So, for now, the only thing that's really critical before building the shipyard, let's see, actually did the contracts did say. Before building the shipyard, it's critical to do this. The probe Eeloo needs a action in 42 days. Let's focus that ship. Jump to ship. And we can rehash the plan, because if avid viewers, one of you 50, I think you're all regular viewers and have watched this from the beginning. The spaceship itself suggests that this was one of the first things we actually launched. Can we see the sun from here? Yeah, it's really small. It is gonna get to Jool in 42 days. So that's time warp. There is a maneuver node here in a year. We don't really need that. We're gonna have a Jool periapsis of... Oh wait, this is only the sphere of influence change that happens in 42 days. That really doesn't matter so much. Oh, time warp is being reduced now for the launch pad reconditioning. That's a good message. Don't really care about that actually. So let's increase the time warp. This only is the sphere of influence, and then it's like 50 more days until we would actually get close to Jool. Now, the trajectory plotter here tells me that somehow we are not going to encounter Jool, but I think it is gonna happen. I'm not completely happy with the trajectory planner. There are often surprises. See, this wasn't encountered, this wasn't planned at all. Now what do we have here? We did, of course, accept a contract to target Jool. No, not to target Jool, to explore Bob, which we can probably maybe do a little bit from this guy. Let's see, let's first properly get into the Jool sphere of influence. Now this is of course beautiful. This is the probe that was originally built to explore Eeloo, now applied to Jool. Please let me target Jool. Originally designed to explore Eeloo, now at Jool, and going to be repurposed to go to Bob, if that's possible. I'm guessing we have a limited amount of delta V. I'm guessing that because, well, this is primitive technology. Bob is over there. We are going to need lots of... Well, let's get it into let's get it into an orbit that is just captured by Jool. Then that way we retain the most kinetic energy, that we may do something with it. Cool. This maneuver node happens in 54 days, so we can add an alarm for that. Add the alarm for the maneuver node. Probe Eeloo to Bob. Boom. Add the alarm, and that's about it. Let's have a quick look how much fuel there is in this thing. Not a lot. There's some fuel here. We may actually be able to do something. Is it being powered? It is being powered. Wonderful. Cool, let's go back to the Space Center and work on that orbital shipyard. That's an exciting bit of kit, I can tell you that. The challenge is, of course, that we also have to send some Kerbals up there, and our record with saving Kerbals has not been flawless. In fact, there have been 8 casualties so far, which is really quite horrifying, come to think of it. Anyway, we won't think of it, and we shall stare at our technology thing. It will take 16 more days, so let's just warp there. Sorry for the epilepsy you're gonna incur from this day-night cycling. You will notice we are also still researching advanced science tech, and that will give us a slew of new detectors and cool stuff, but we'll not expand on that now. I will show you the future. And I mean that literally, in many ways, because, well, the future is inexorable, and now you've seen a few seconds of it, but also slightly less literal, but still literal in the way that the orbital shipyard is called the future, because this is going to be the future of the Tylo and Eeloo program. Look at that, many fuel tanks and engines, as we are known to use. And here is a module with radiators and solar panels and docking ports for resupplying rocket parts. A habitat with facilities for housing Kerbals, some connector stuff for housing more ships, some RCS, and here the pièce de la résistance, butchering that, the orbital shipyard itself. Now, let's construct this. Let's put Kerbals in it as well. We are going to send our best. I suppose it makes sense to send an engineer, doesn't it? An engineer in the orbital shipyard, and oh, what if the ships we're gonna build, if they need pilots, they're gonna have to come from the shipyard, of course. They're not gonna be teleported up there. So we had probably better load up some pilots. This is scary because we're loading up so many Kerbals, and if they die, we'll only have 5 left. And remember, Kerbals are expensive. They get ever more expensive. Yeah, let's send the other engineers off. 4 Kerbals up there. Of course, it doesn't really matter now, because now we're just going to go click build, and we can revise our plans later. But still, let's see how long that will take. Oh shit, oh, that looked like the black hole Kraken. The future will take 29 days. That's before we have to do something with the probe Eeloo. That's actually way after the X probe to Joule. Let's not do anything with that. We will build our probes from the orbital shipyard. I think that's a good thing to aspire. Right, the future. Let's warp to completion. 30 days. And then we can launch that thing and see about getting a shipyard operational. We have many things that a orbital build could do. One, it could liberate the starved Kerbals from the surprise, this ancient failure of a space station. 2, it could build a lunar surveyor with a hyper efficient engine because it doesn't need to take off. Also, it could do... Also, I'm getting science from somewhere. Do I already have a space station that I forgot about because I'm an idiot? What is that science coming from? Where is that science coming from? Let's actually have a look at the... Oh god, the space stations. Is there already a space station? Yeah, the surprise. That doesn't really count because it's abandoned. Credit sat, lunar probe, commercial line. Well, we have lots of assets. Some of them are beaming back data. Right, let's start the launch procedure then. We're gonna need to wheel it out to the launch pad. Roll out the future. Cool, let's warp to completion. I think I could probably skip these bits, just say that I'm gonna do them and then do them, but then where are you gonna get your YouTube videos of me yakking about logistics? Isn't that wonderful? Right on, it's been rolled out. Now if I click launch, are we then gonna... here we go. We get the guys that we put in there. Yeah. Launch it. And then we are of course going to fast forward time until daytime, but we're going to do so from the launch pad. And here's a disclaimer, if that goes horribly wrong, I will allow myself a reload. Because, hey, we're allowed to wait until daylight. That should not bring unsurmountable problems. Look at that, the Kerbals are really happy. I don't know why. They are flying on an untested space station. This surely is the most dangerous bit in the life of this space station. Anyway, full throttle, engage, and I'm going to show the entire liftoff procedure because in more ways than one, this is the most essential bit of the space program. If this fails, I don't know what I'm going to do. We can build it again, but then we have literally zero money. We still have to be careful to do lunar surveys with, but hey, let's not do contingency planning before we're even off the planet, before the dreaded explosion has actually happened. I'm going to throttle back just to make sure that we pass the supersonic threshold a little bit higher up in the atmosphere. This is the point where aerodynamic forces are greatest, and well, if you encounter that point a little bit higher, they are not as great as you would when encountering them lower. Right. We are at 230 meters per second. That's still below Mach 1. We're at 7 kilometers. We're ascending. The spacecraft appears to be easy to control, and our Kerbals are still happy. Now I have attempted to include a functional life support system for them, along with a lot of supplies, to prevent them from suffering the same fate as surprised it. But then again, this also has docking ports, so even if it fails, we can send rescue and resupply ships. Okay, cutting engines, ditching the first stage, and we're just gonna wait until it falls clear and reignite. This is, I have found, the safest way to do staging. Sure, it does cost you a few seconds of unpowered flight, but it also, well, basically eliminates danger of spent stages slamming into the rocket violently, because you separate them whilst under zero thrust, so the speed difference is going to be minimal, just the amount induced by the separators, by the decouplers really, and that way they generally tend to drift away from the ship, especially if you're still in the atmosphere, where there is an uneven aerodynamic friction and drag. Of course, you could use separatrons, but I don't think I've researched those yet. Right, we're at 35, coming up on 40 kilometers, time to do a pitch over maneuver, and you may guesstimate, if you're paying attention to all the gauges and rocketry aspects, that this spaceship launcher has plenty of delta V, and indeed it has, because I actually don't know if the part count, the rocket parts that would be used in the spaceship construction in orbit, if they include fuel. So this launcher carries a abundant amount of fuel, so that the space station immediately receives its first fill of, well, expendable rocket fuel to give to its constructions. That was a pretty good launching speech, if I do say so myself. Let's see, we're up to 1400 meters per second, almost completely horizontal. Very easy to control this thing because it has big engines which are gimbaled, and it even has RCS thrusters. I say it's easy to control, but then again we're veering all over the place, so maybe I'm right. Well, we're coming up on last stage separation. Let's do that the same way, under zero thrust, and you'll see now that there's no atmosphere, the spent stages, they stay a little bit closer, but still they are spinning easily clear, because we are actually spinning, and then they are not attached to the center anymore, which will, well, propel them outward. Let's launch the engine and propel ourselves away from these things, and we're ready to ditch the aerodynamic cone. Here that goes, and let's actually ask the RCS system to stabilize us, stabilize our rotation once we get up to speed for remaining in orbit. Here, behold the pretty wonderful, nice ass orbital shipyard. That was a couple of adjectives too much, I think. Let's re-disable the RCS system. We actually need it. Let's shoot for an orbit between 150 and 200 kilometers, or we'll actually scratch that. Let's go for 250 kilometers because it was already up to that. Cool. Let's time warp to that altitude and round off our orbit, at which point we can actually start designing stuff to be built on orbit. That's pretty cool if you ask me. And another thing I'm going to have to design, of course, is a universal resupply ship. I will show you the aspects of this station. Look, here is a rocket part container. And these rocket parts will of course be used up in constructing rockets. Hey, I suppose you guessed that. They have to be refilled, possibly also fuel tanks and supplies for the Kerbals. That's why this ship has plenty of docking ports, which will aid in that resupply endeavor. And if we decide the station needs some extra modules, that will serve for that purpose as well. Let's now establish our final orbit. It should be easy to rendezvous with, most of all. So not too much of a change, but not too low either. So we have 2 by 300 kilometers, which I'm completely happy with. The reason I'm not putting it at 70 is because then when I'm going to attempt to rendezvous with it, I will only be able to go slower than the station, because if I wanted to go faster, I'd be eating atmosphere and probably re-entering. So, if you're going to put a space station and you want to make frequent rendezvous to it, put it at a little bit higher than the minimum altitude so that your rendezvous ships have some leeway to maneuver. Now that we are in our desired orbit, let's work on safing the station and deploying its solar collectors and of course the shipyard itself. Let's see. I could probably have done this with an action group, but then I didn't. So hitting the blue buttons it is. I put lots and lots of all the parts because, well, then we'll have enough power for sure. And also there is of course the danger, because this is going to be a industrial station with lots of maneuvering, lots of rendezvousing. There is always a danger of collisions and actually bumping off a few of the panels. Speaking of collisions, this has happened in real life. Some of the resupply ships, I think it was to Mir, but maybe it was to the International Space Station, have crashed into the docking rings and stuff and damaged solar panels and, well, scared a lot of people. Right, here is some more living space for our Kerbals. They are now probably scrunched up in the... yeah, they're all in the shipyard, so we have a house for them as well. Look at that. The inflatable habitation module. Isn't that wonderful? I don't know what it does except provide living space. And we have the inflatable agriculture module. Now this needs water, substrate, organics, which I didn't fit onto the initial launch vehicle, which we can probably send up, well, we can definitely send up on a ship, which we will, but let's first try and enable the habitat. Start habitat. Missing organics. Vessel productivity 2.9 to the power of E minus 0.8. That's 0 at point, then 8 zeros, or 7, and then a 29802. So that's really, really low. Productivity 0. But doesn't matter because we have a supply container, and this will feed 4 Kerbals for years. And as a nice side goal, we can strive to well, have the station self-sufficient, but it doesn't have to be. If it's not, it's fine. Okay, let's have a look at this. Let's open up the shipyard. Boom. A shipyard. Let's show the UI. Here we have extraplanetary launch pad 5.9. This is the mod thing. We call it the Apollo scrapyard. I came up with that name. And now we can build stuff. I mean, if we select a craft, we can build something. This is all, of course, including a launcher, which we don't need now. That's the whole point. So let's actually, I think I'm gonna leave the episode here, do some off-screen designing and tinkering of both a resupply vessel, some probes which we need for our contract missions, and then we'll, in the next episode, attempt to construct something with our orbital shipyard. For now I'm going to just, well, spin up the space station, and whilst doing that I'm gonna expand all the solar panels so that we have maximum efficiency. And I think I pretty much know that we're gonna need a functioning hydroponics lab to have the space station be productive. And I'm not sure if that's referring to producing food or also to producing spaceships. I think as long as the Kerbals are happy, they will be able to produce spaceships at pretty much top efficiency. I mean, who cares that there's no new food being grown, as long as I have the tank with full food supplies. Anyway, we'll find that out in the next episodes. Let's see, we have a little bit less fuel than I would have liked for new and maiden ships, but then again, if it turns out you cannot convert rocket parts into fuel, one of these docking ports will become home to a massive fuel depot. Yeah, I think we may actually not need that much fuel, because the things that will be launched from here will mostly be high efficiency, low mass probes, for now at least. Another thought I had, which is for the future squared, which means way more into the future, is to actually tack on one of these on a resource harvesting interplanetary exploration monster. That way you can have a space cruiser that's truly self-sufficient. Imagine, it can fly to an asteroid, build a prospector, prospect ore, convert that into rocket parts with its workshop, and build more things. even replacement parts, and the only non-renewable resource would be Kerbals. So if you stick 20 of them on the ship, you could live in space forever. Now this would get fairly large because you'd need mining stuff, you'd need reprocessing stuff, and you'd need workshops. But then again, you can condense all that to rocket parts because you can build these individual stuff with just a shipyard. Anyway, that's a thought for much later, probably never, but it is cool to think about. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Apologies for never making them, but hey, I'm working on my career in the real world, which is also nice. So there will be more some point in the future, no promises. See you around. Thanks for watching and hanging in there and being interested in Tylo and Eeloo. I still want to build colonies on there. See you. What's up? Nothing. Nothing else. I've got nothing. Oh, Stasis is a cool game. See you.